Hello again, I'm Bob Colton. We're continuing our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools. Kim Caudell and Mona Ellard are joining me today, and we're talking really about the upper elementary Tide Me Over program, and you've brought props, and it's all good-looking food. So tell me a little bit about the program, and what do people need to know?
Well, I will start, and Mona happened to come in one day and said, what can we do from her church? And I said, we really have kids, we feed kids 2 times a day, a regular meal for breakfast and a regular meal for lunch. But on the weekends, they're not with us, so they're going home sometimes to homes that don't have a lot of food at their home. So she did some investigating and came up with a great idea to help us out, that kids go home with a bag on Fridays that helps them get through the weekend with foods that they can prepare for themselves.
Yeah, and do you find that there's a big need for that?
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we do. This is the second year that we're doing it, second school year. The first school year, at that time, we were looking at 51% of the kids in the upper elementary that was receiving free or qualified for free reduced lunches. This year, it's 54%.
Yeah,
So it continues to grow. And when you think of over half the kids in 4th and 5th grade last year and 4th and 5th and 6th grade this year, that's a lot of children that really are at risk of not having enough food to eat.
Yeah, and a lot of people who have means don't really think about it, but not everybody has those kind of means where kids aren't eating on the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So this is really a great program. How do you identify who qualifies then?
Well, luckily I don't have to worry about that. Kim does all that work.
What the first thing that we do is we offer this program to anybody who's on free or reduced lunch. And by parents filling out the form at the beginning of the school year, they're identified. It's a confidential form. I send a letter home to them saying I have this wonderful opportunity for you, and then I get their permission to send a bag home. So really nobody knows who's who or why they're getting it. I have a meeting with the students that tells them, you know, that your mom and dad said this was a great idea and they want you to bring this home every Friday. So that's kind of how they're identified.
And so tell us about some of the things.
Well, what we try to do is give them a nutritious bag of food, but kid-friendly. Yeah. As Kim was saying, we want them to be able to cook some of this food. Now, macaroni and cheese may be a little touch and go, but what we've really found through our evaluations that we've done is that the parents are pretty involved in helping them prepare the food, which is really good. But most of the other things that we have here, it's just opening up a can and microwaving it. Yeah. So it's pretty easy.
So the applesauce, for instance, you just have to open
all that, or the puddings. Anything else is pretty easy. What we try to do is every week they get a macaroni and cheese box. We were a little concerned about that last year, being our first year, so we did some evaluations, and I want to share a couple evaluations that Kim did for us. We, as a church, do not know who these children are, and because of that, I've been really worried over the 2 years, whether the volunteers would continue involved in that. But let me give you a short story. Last week we had a lot of ice in this area, so much so that we didn't have school Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And so because of that, on Tuesdays, we always, the inventory control group meets, and they put all the food out, count it all out. The food is there, but we count it all out, getting it ready for the bagger team that comes in and bags it. I called them to say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out. I live out in the country, and my road hadn't been plowed since the following Sunday, and it had blown shut. And they said, that's okay. There's 2 of us that can make it in. We will do it. Don't worry about it. Well, I was able to come in. I did the same thing with the baggers. 5 of them showed up on that day. That's the normal amount. They said, we have got to do this, Mona. These kids have been 3 weeks without our food bags. So there's a real commitment there. So even though they don't see the children, they have great feelings for these kids. They understand that there are kids that are going at risk in our community, and they are there to make sure that they get their food.
And I would imagine in some circumstance, young people actually like to come to school because they know they'll be able to eat. And now going home on the weekend with food, that's pretty important. Yeah.
Very.
And so, what else do we have? What else is a part of the staple of things that you would
Well,
pack?
every month they receive a 16-ounce jar of peanut butter. We really don't want them just to eat for themselves. This one is a smaller looking thing, smaller looking bag content than many of the others because we're using 2 packages of flavored instant pudding or oatmeal. Usually, like this week, they're going to get Honey Bunches of Oats, which is a large family size container, or they will get some other type of cereal that's in a cereal box. We always try to provide some type of saltines or crackers. We can't put bread in this because they get too smushed up as we transport the bags in tubs and then the tubs to the school. And then Kim and her PTA, is it?
Yep, I have 2 volunteers that come in every Friday morning, and they take our confidential list and big trolleys and go down the hallway, and then these bags are put in individual lockers. So the kids just open up the locker and the bag is ready to go home.
So you saw the need with young people, and you met it. How do you get the food itself? How is it donated?
We don't donate food.
Yeah.
We ask for money.
Really?
Because,
Yeah.
yes, this year our budget is $16,400. And that, each bag cost us $5 approximately a week for each child. And this year we're serving 103 kids. Last year our average was 72 children. But this year some things happened. Number one, went from 52 to 54%, so there's more kids that qualify. And the other thing is that the upper elementary went from 4th and 5th grade to 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. So we picked up another classroom. So that's why we went up to 100. Interesting about the 100, that was our stopping point. And then Kim called and said, Mona, we've got 2 children on a waiting list. And I said, oh, well, let me think about it. And I went to my husband and I said, now Ed, we've got 2 kids on a waiting list. He said, Mona, those kids are hungry. Why are you thinking they're on a waiting list? I said, what do you have to think about? So then another week went to 103.
Yeah.
That's fine. We are glad to do that. But our transporters are now saying no more because it takes 2 of them with trucks to bring all the food every week. They receive between 10 and 14 items every week. And it changes all the time of what they get. SpaghettiOs, this is ravioli. SpaghettiOs is one of their favorites. Kim was so kind last year. She brought in a grouping of the kids that received the food. We had structured questions for her to ask. Is it no surprise that they don't like green beans? They told us that.
None.
So you don't see green beans this year.
Yeah, you
see
can't
corn.
give them things they won't eat.
Because they won't
Exactly.
eat 'em.
And
Yeah.
it's a waste of the money not to have it used. But what was really nice is at the end of the year, Kim allowed us to do an evaluation with the parents. And so we sent out at the last week of school an evaluation sheet because we wanted to know, were you really using macaroni and cheese every week?
Yeah.
You know, I would get kind of tired of it myself. It was used every week. Almost all of the parents said all the food was always used.
Yeah.
They wanted to cut down a little bit on the raviolis, so we only give them 1 of these a month instead of 2. There were things we tried to pay attention to what they liked, but they really enjoyed. And this year we're adding some new things. We didn't have canned chicken last year, and we can do that. And we have some new kinds of rice that's being donated by the Lutheran Foundation, and so we're Thrivent Lutheran Foundation, so we're able to add that to our meals. This year we have pounds of elbow macaroni, which again, it takes a parent to cook it. But I'm going to wait and see what these evaluations say. But we try to match that up usually with some chicken that they can put, so chicken salad or something like that. We try to make it so that it makes more than just for one child.
And so you had to kind of test this over time and find out what worked and
Exactly.
and what didn't. And so what do the kids say?
Well, it's interesting. Besides not liking green beans, they didn't say they didn't like much, but they would like to see ice cream and pizza and more chocolate coming their way.
More chocolate was the big one.
Well, they get chocolate pudding.
Yeah.
And our granola bars are often chocolate. And at holidays like Valentine's Day and Christmas, they get chocolate. So they do get chocolate.
Yeah.
And they get chocolate milk once a month. So those are things that we can do. But the pizza and ice cream are a little challenging when we have to
Yeah.
do everything shelf stable. But I have to tell you, the County Journal here in Charlotte, after I had talked about this with the Rotary Club, came up and said, I have an idea, I've got to work through it. And I don't know Kim knew of this or not, but on the last Friday before Christmas vacation or holiday vacation, they gave us certificates for each of the kids to pick up a 10-inch pizza with 2 toppings for
Oh, that's
free
great.
I didn't know
at
that.
Reedy's. So
Very
that
So
was,
they could get it themselves.
they could get it the
That's
way
great.
they want it, but they got pizza, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just think that was a wonderful gift, because we couldn't have done that.
yeah. And still, this whole, all of the food is a gift. And
It is.
probably more strategy, as much as strategy as execution, because you're giving them some things that you've really thought about and tested and find out what works. And then you really have to deliver on a consistent basis.
We do.
They're there every Thursday, dropping off. Every Thursday, the big tubs come in, and then every Monday morning they pick it up, or Tuesday morning.
Tubs
and
empty.
Pick the tubs empty, and so it's been a great program because they just bring it in and we deliver, and they take it back, and
Yeah.
the kids take it home on Friday.
And you do require some volunteer input, right?
We
There-
do.
Yeah.
We have 50 volunteers from our church that work on this. We have 4 teams of baggers, because we want to be realistic to volunteers' needs too. They don't want to work every day. I mean, that's called work, isn't
Yeah.
it? So they don't want to do that. So we have 4 teams of baggers, so they only have to bag once a month. That works out great. We have 2 teams of inventory control, which means that when the food comes in, my husband and I do all the buying of the food. When the food comes in, then they sort it, put it on the expiration dates, and we place it on shelving. And then the day of bagging, they bring out the food that we're going to be using that day based on a menu. The menus are every 2 months, so like this is January, the kids will get the same food again in March, but they have a different menu in February, which they'll get again in April.
So that takes a lot of strategic thought.
It does,
Yeah.
but it's also kind of challenging and fun.
Yeah, and so, what do you know that this is? How do you know that it's changed the lives of young people?
Well, I can tell you, I have a story too.
Oh,
I've told
good.
I think I've told you this one, but we have parents who rely on this food to come
Yeah.
home on Fridays. On Friday night, I'll get a call, and I'll be at school, and their son or daughter forgot to bring their bag home, so can they come and get it? So they're depending on having that bag for the weekend. So to me, that means we're doing a great service to help our kids get through the weekend, still eating nutrition filled foods, and then feeling that they can come back to school and know that we're helping them out with things, because we know that kids who have the food they need learn better. So
Yeah, and that's really the key of why you're doing this.
It
'Cause
is exactly
when
the
kids have the nutrition, they really are in a position to
When
learn.
kids are not getting their basic needs met, whether it's for love and affection, for guidance, for food, for shelter, then that puts them in a physically stressed situation. And when you're in a physically stressed situation, whether it's adult or a child, you are not able to pick up new things, because you're still centering in on how is that need going to be met for me.
Yeah.
And so we know that. Research tells us that. And we want children to have the best opportunity, maximize as much as we can do for them. And I'll tell you why this is so important. $16,000 is a pretty hard number to come up with every year. That's a lot of money to raise. And we had $7,500 left over from our own donations from our church. But this year I went in a little different direction. And I contacted all the service clubs and police organizations and military, and we were able to get the money here in our community. And many of the people I know personally said, thank you for doing this. We never realized that our kids were at risk.
Yeah. Now, how did you get the idea? Is it something that's been done in some other school
Well,
districts?
the Assembly of God Church here in Charlotte did it through kindergarten through first grade,
Right.
or third grade, excuse me. And they did it back in 2011-12. And that's when we first heard about it. And when I went to Kim, I have to tell you what she said. I think it's kind of telling.
what did I say?
You're worried, aren't you? When I said to her, do you think that there are kids in your 4th and 5th graders who need this. And she said, you know, I was so jealous that the kids in kindergarten through 3rd grade were getting food, and I saw my kids going hungry. So I think that's very telling. She can see, you know, you ask for results, but she can see what's happening to kids who are not being fed, who don't have enough. And it's not necessarily because the parents aren't feeding the kids.
No.
It's just the parents don't have all the resources they need to feed them all the time.
Yeah.
And so this is tough times, and I often think that children don't have a voice. So we as adults have to speak for them.
It doesn't solve all the problems of young people, but it
doesn't.
does really set a foundation for them
Absolutely.
to be prepared
Meeting a
for
basic
school.
need.
Yeah. And Kim, when you see them come to school, does their whole attitude about learning change?
Oh, yeah, definitely does. They, it seemed to be like 10 o'clock every day. I would have a stream of kids coming in saying, do you have any snacks? Do you have any food? Those kinds of things. What kids sometimes will do is they'll save like these kind of things are their fruit snacks and bring them for snacks on the Monday. But, and they also come in and see the tubs being brought in and the kids who are getting back, oh, yep, I get my bag today, wonder what's gonna be in my bag today, kind of thing. I thought at first it might be, they're embarrassed about getting their bag, but it's not. We put it inside their backpack. They know what's in there because it's pretty heavy to take home, but they're really not. They're not
Yeah.
embarrassed at all. And if we miss a locker by chance or something like that, they'll come right down and say, hey, my bag wasn't in my locker. So I know they depend on it during the weekend, that they know they're gonna have, you know, the basic needs met.
And sharing information about this program is a great way to share the effort of philanthropy too, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
not only contributing or giving money, but also what happens for how important it is for those people to receive. It's a great learning moment.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
I have a 4th grade grandson who happens to be in her upper elementary, and we have bags that we put a label on that says "Tide Me Over" on, and so because I'm kind of always looking for what needs to be done ahead, I take these 250 bags home, and we have to do this, and Connor helps me with that. And I always say to him, please, Connor, don't go up to any of the people that you see in your classroom that get this, because I don't want you to say, oh, I helped with that. You know,
Yeah.
that's not what this is about, Connor. This is for kids that don't get the food that you do. And so he tells me stories. He said, oh, they get so excited, Grandma, when they get their bag.
They do.
Yeah. Well, and so as young people get this bag and it kind of holds them over through the weekend, it also prepares them for school, actually coming to school next week. So they're ready, and we do have programs to feed kids during the week, but
We do.
people don't think about the weekend, do they? And so if, in a perfect world, if you were to expand this kind of effort, what would you do?
Well, I think we need summer programs. The problem with that is transportation,
Yeah.
because the kids do come to school where in the summer it would be hard to get them to a particular location. But there are, in urban areas, there are summer programs. But I feel like we're doing what we can possibly do, and I think it's helping the kids when they need it the most. School year, it's pretty long, so
Yeah.
we're meeting a lot of need.
Yeah. And what I'm impressed with most is this is pretty good food.
We think so.
We like
Yeah.
We think so.
Yeah, and so how do you select? I mean, you told me a little bit about the convenience of it and how you've done it, but you also have to make a good buy because you have to make a small amount of money last for a lot of kids.
There's about 5 or 6 stores that know me personally.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm going out constantly looking for the best bargains. My husband has had to try a lot of foods that he says, oh, this is not going to make it, this is not going to make it, or this one's a winner, you know, type of thing. But we're always looking for good buys. And you know, over the summer, because I have usually some leftover money, in the summer I can buy some real good specials
Sure.
for us through the year. And most of the food that comes in is good for at least a year. So that's a little bit easier to work with. Even surprising oatmeal will come in with a 2-year expiration date. So that really helps us a great deal. But by staying to a 2-month menu, you pretty much can figure out what you need for the whole year. I just did the figuring on this because I purchased all the food up until the end of March already. So we start in October 1st and then we go to the end of school year. Last year was the first week of June, this year is the last week of May. We have spent $11,000 so far. And when I figured that out, in all things, we have spent $4.92 per bag. So my $5 guesstimate was pretty on track. So it's interesting. What we have noticed that's different, and Kim's probably not aware of this until I bring it up. Last year, we started off with 80 kids. Then it kind of filtered down, and as I said, we had an average of 72 kids. But throughout the winter, starting in January, we started getting less and less kids. We have only gone up this year. We have not gone down. We started with 100, we were at 103. We have not gone down yet.
The need keeps going out.
Yeah. Well,
We're not seeing a decline.
the need is there. This is something important and unique in the Charlotte Public Schools, and congratulations
Thank
to
you.
both you,
Thank
Mona
you.
and Kim,
We're just, you're welcome.
for what you're doing.
Easy to work with.
And
So
you've
it's-
made me hungry. now.
Have I made you
All
hungry?
this-
I haven't had dinner either.
Well, thanks again. I'm Bob Colt, and we'll continue our conversations in Charlotte Public Schools.